In this video, we are going to recreate the website of MrBeast's famous chocolate. Why do you have that expression on your face? Okay, recreating the website of MrBeast's chocolate company.
Feastables! Feastables? Feastables. 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 What do you think of this Feastables bar?
And we're doing it in WordPress using Elementor. Not only that, but we are going to improve on the design that they have originally. This is a side note. I have to stress that MrBeast's Feastable website, it's a great looking website and the developers behind it do have skill. But having said that, do not use this as a design template going forward in your own designs. When I saw the site, I was very impressed. It was a very cool site to recreate in WordPress. But as we were actually looking at it and how it was constructed, we started to find more and more problems with the website. Now again, I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone, it's just what we found. From code that was very buggy, the website is not SEO'd whatsoever. So like if you search for Feastables on Google, it is going to be the first search result. And the only reason for that is because everyone links to it. The website itself does nothing. If a company had this sort of website and they didn't have someone as famous as MrBeast actually promoting it, the company in and of itself, if it was just relying on e-commerce, would have been liquidated and bankrupt a long time ago. The reasons why I say that is if you actually do the Google search, anything underneath that first place has no reference back to the actual Feastable store, which is an actual giveaway of how bad the SEO is. Because if you search on the products of Google and you want to go shopping for the MrBeast website in and of itself and not some third party, the website is not going to pitch up at all in the products. There was also a lot of other things that we actually noticed, but the point of this video was actually just to show really cool effects and how to teach people how to do those things. So that's what I'm going to be concentrating on, and just remember, do keep SEO and everything in mind when making your website. So let me show you in this tutorial what we did and how you can actually build the exact same thing that we did. Okay, not only did we recreate it in WordPress, but we did improve on the whole design and kept it very uniform. So here is the original MrBeast Feastables website. So you can see there's this floating element of this airplane that says Cole's mom approved, right? Now we thought that was pretty cool. Now if you look carefully in the background, there's this cartoon effect. It's a classical cartoon effect, but normally it's animated and spinning around in video. So we redid that in our version of this website. Here is the one that's built in WordPress. Now you can see that this is definitely WordPress. Now, there's that spinning background that we were talking about. Now, because there was that floating element, we actually decided to actually make this whole thing have its own floating animation as well. Really cool design like that, and we actually think that was a bit of an improvement there. Something else you're going to notice, here is the orange background. It's very textured, and in theirs, they have the same thing, but on theirs, it's fixed to that actual container. On ours, it's fixed to the background, so it's just added more effects there. Then if we scroll down, we've got this section over here that says where you can find us. One thing I didn't like about this is if the mouse accidentally goes over, it just stops, which kind of sucks because you're not going anywhere. So on our version, we have the same thing, very smooth in that, and it doesn't stop when you put the mouse on there. So moving right along, here in ours, remember we did that fixed element, we actually did it to this orange over here. So this orange over here as well, you can see it's fixed. It's just a nice little added touch, very small, but it's cool, right? And in theirs, it's actually just static. Now we also copied this whole animation here with the growing shadow and then the Feastables doing that whole pivot thing. All these hovering animations we're going to show you how to do as well. Something I didn't understand on this website as well. It's got these little mini videos here. Now, I understand it's to advertise the actual chocolate bar itself, but they're not clickable. They don't go to the chocolate. So it's kind of weird that they're there. That I didn't understand from a design aspect. But they have their reasons. I just don't know what they are. On our version of it, what we did was we actually took out the videos and we did that whole animation again with that cartoony effect using the same type of assets that they had there, and these are clickable and they go to the actual product. Moving down, we go to the next section. Now this is pretty cool over here with this animation here where it's by your Feastables in the background. Now we didn't go with this, although it was easy to replicate. We thought that we'd keep to the same type of design that we were going with. So in our own version, we actually did that whole spinning animation in the background and we made this float up and down just like all these little other animations, keeping to the same type of design. And of course the buttons actually do work as well in this animation. Then we're coming down to the second last area. This, I guess, is to show the latest video. It doesn't actually have a heading or anything, but I guess that's what they meant by doing this section. Here we thought we'd actually just spice it up just a little bit on our own. We didn't put in a heading, but what we did was also made the chocolate bar itself float up and down, just to add more to the same type of design that was going on before. And then finally, here is their footer. Now, very cool footer in that. What we did was we actually just did that whole animation in the background because theirs was fixed here. And then of course this one is powered by Shopify and ours is WordPress. Also from a business standpoint, I don't know the agreement with Shopify and that they must have. For a normal store that sells a lot of products, Shopify gets very expensive very quickly, especially when they actually charge commissions like on all the sales and that. And at a bigger scale, I'm not sure why people wouldn't really use WordPress or something else instead, especially when you actually control your website better and have complete ownership of it if it's on WordPress. But they do have their reasons, and well, we're going to do it in WordPress anyway. So what we're going to be concentrating on is building this out in WordPress. I'm not going to make it too mobile responsive because at the end of the day, I'm showing you more the animations and that. It's very easy to convert into perfect mobile as well. All the animations, everything will work anyways, but you just have to realign them just a little bit. On the Feastables website itself, it actually has different assets all over the show when it goes into mobile responsive mode. So it's not really that responsive, it's actually just different assets. But before we get started, there's going to be two things you're going to need. The first thing is there's going to be a link in the description of this video that's going to take you to this reference page. Over here, what you're going to find is all the images that we are going to be using for this build. And then there's going to be a lot of code that you guys can copy paste to actually recreate all the animations. These images that I'm giving you, please, I don't have the copyright to it. You don't have the copyright to it. It's just for us to learn here in this tutorial. Okay, so please don't use it anywhere. And the second thing you're going to need is WooCommerce, because this is an e-commerce store. I gave you images for the products in the zip file that you can download from this reference page. So just make like say 3 or 4 different example ones. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and you don't have to put any text really. It's just the image and the name and maybe a price. That'll just speed up the build here for this tutorial. Now, having said all that, let's go and build out our version of the Feastables website. So here in Elementor, the very first thing you're going to need is the structure windows. So that's this button over here because we're going to be referencing it a lot. This is not a beginner friendly build, but it's not the end of the world if you follow along as well. So, okay, to start this off with our first container. So we click the plus sign, flex box, first container. And for the settings of this, we are going to make sure that this is full width, add 100% width. Everything else on this page can stay the same. Then if we go to style, the background, we're going to go classic, and we are going to choose a image. So it's going to be this paper texture background over here, and we say select. For the settings here, we can keep it full. The attachment can be fixed. The repeat can say repeat, and everything else is fine over there. Something else we're going to do over here is if we go to background overlay, we're going to give a color here. So I'm going to choose classic color, and the color we are going for is an orange. And it's this number right here. It's the FF7700. Then the opacity is going to be a 0.7. The blend mode, we are going to say that this is multiply. So it really highlights the texture. Then if we go to advanced, all we're going to do is make the padding 0. Then the final thing, just to make sure over here, this Z index, we're going to make this as a 1. And that will come into play when we're actually adding all the animations. Now, what we need inside this container is a spacer. So we go down to go get the spacer, we put it in, and then we're going to need 2 containers. So say plus sign, container, put it in, and we're going to duplicate this container. So there's a spacer, 2 containers. Now for the settings of the first container, this is going to be full width. The percentage here we're going to say at 90. Then if we go down to gaps, we're going to say 0. Then for the style, we're going to go into the background. The background color is going to be a blue. And it's this one right over here. It's that 15 CCFF. Then if we go down to border, this is going to be solid. The border width is going to be 4. The border color here is going to be black. Then the border radius here is going to be rem at 1. Now heading over to advanced, we are going to delink the margins. The top is going to be 40 and the bottom is going to be 10. Then the self-align, we're going to be putting it into the center, and the Z index here, we're going to say 3. And then the last thing we're going to do over here in this container is we're going to set the padding to 0. Now inside this container, we are going to need another container, and this one's going to house that actual spinning animation over here. So let's go put that in. So it's the plus sign container and we put it in. Now for the settings of this container, we are just going to make sure it's full width, and everything else can stay the same except for the gaps. We're going to be putting it to 0. And in additional options, overflow is hidden. Then if you go to style, the background here, we're going to choose that image. It's that cartoon image, so it's going to be this one right here. We say select. Then this is going to be full, and everything else can stay the same there. Now over here, we are going to go give a border radius. So we are going to go to border. Then the border radius here, we're going to change it to rem. And this one's going to be a 0.8, just like that. Then if we go to advanced, the padding is going to be 0. Now here we have to give a CSS class name. So in that reference page, it's going to be this feast animation background. So copy, and we're going to paste it right here. So inside this container, we're going to add 2 images and a button. So let's go get this. So we're going to say image, put it in, duplicate this, and then we go get a button. So there's the button and we put it in. Now the order here, it's both images on top and then the button going to be at the bottom. Now for this first image, now we're going to make sure we're on the first image, and this image is going to be that airplane that says Carl's mom approved, and we say select. Then if we go to advanced, the width here is going to be custom. This one's going to be in pixels, and it's going to be 390. Then if we go down to position, we're going to say absolute. The horizontal orientation can stay the same there, but we're going to give it a 215 pixels. Then the vertical orientation, we are going to give this 80 pixels. Now this needs a CSS class name, and the one that we're looking for is this feast movement reverse. We're going to copy that and we're going to paste it in here in CSS classes. Okay. Now we are going to go to the second image. Now this one is going to be that broken chocolate bar. So it's going to be this one with the actual text. We're going to say select. Then the image resolution, we can put it to 4. Then under style, we're just going to make sure that this is 100%. Then in advanced, we are going to set the padding 0. And this one, the Z index is 3. And this one is going to have a CSS class name. So this one, if we go to the reference page, it's going to be that feast movement 2, and we are going to paste it into the class name. Now we head over to the button. For the text of this button, it's going to be taste the difference. The link would obviously go to the shop page or whatever you'd like. Then if we go to style, the typography we're going to be using for this is going to be Canet. So there it is, it's Canet. This is going to be View W, and it's going to be 2.2. Then the weight is going to be 600. Transform is uppercase. Style is italic. And everything else is the same there. Moving right along, the text color here is going to be black. The background, we are going to give it a color, and it's going to be that FF9125. Then the border is going to be solid. The border width is going to be 3 pixels. The color is black. The border radius here is 6 pixels. And the padding here, we are going to set our own padding. So we're going to delink this. It's going to be 15, 40, 15, and 40. Now here in advance, what we're going to do is we are going to go to position, and we're going to say that this is absolute as well. We're going to change the offset to percentage, and it's going to be an 11%. Then vertical orientation, we're going to set this to the bottom. It's going to be percentage, and it's going to be 16. ZNX here is going to be 4. Now this needs a class name. So we go over to the reference page. It says banner button here. We copy and we paste that in right there. Now while we're here on this button, we're going to go to custom CSS and we're going to put something in here. So in the reference page, we scroll down, and this code over here is going to be for the banner button. So we're just going to copy this and we're going to paste that in here. So what happens here is it needs a shadow for the hover, but you don't have that option under style. There's only a shadow and no shadow for hover. So that's what that code does over there. And we are done with this container. Now we are going to go down to this bottom container here, and we are going to add this marquee over here. So for the change settings of this container is we're just going to have it at full width. And then if we go to advanced, the padding we're just delinking, and the bottom we're going to say 20. Now inside this container we are going to need a carousel. So we click the plus sign, we say carousel, and it's going to be this one that just says carousel. We're going to put that in. Then the second and third slide we can remove. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up on the right hand side. You can open up the carousel like this, and you can change the settings of the slide 1. So that's what we're going to do over here. So here for this actual slide container, we are just going to make sure that the justify content is in the center. So inside this container we're going to add an image. So plus sign, go get an image, and we put it in. The images that we're going with is all these companies over here, but the first one we're going to do is find us at. So that's the one that's going to be over there. And now we can go and duplicate these sliders. So we can click on the carousel, and then we can duplicate this till there is 7. So that's the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7. So for all these slides, all we have to do is change the image. So the second slide, we're going to open that up. The image, we can choose any one of these, it doesn't matter. I'm going to start with that Albertsons. The third one, open it up, image, change, click on the next one, that's Sam's Club. Open up the next one, change the image to Kroger or Kruger. Image, next, Walmart, next image, Target, say select. And then the final image is 7-Eleven. Now what we're going to do is if we go to the actual carousel, we're going to change the settings here. So slides to display here is going to be 3. Slides to scroll is 8. Equal height is on. In settings, autoplay yes. Scroll speed here is 0. Then pause on hover, no. Pause on interaction, no. Transition duration, we are going to put this to 3000. Then the offset sides, we're going to say that this is both. The default width of 80 is fine. Navigation here, we are going to say no. And we're just going to make sure pagination here as well is none. So there's going to be nothing but the actual text. Then if we go to advanced, the padding here is set to 0. And the final thing we have to do is put in some code here. So we go back to the reference side. And the second code that goes into the carousel, this is the one over here. We're just going to copy it, and we're going to paste it. That happens to be one of the codes that we actually used in the tutorial before, just to make this go smoothly. And guess what? We are officially done with this entire section. Now, if your scrolling here is going too fast for whatever reason, all you have to do is tweak the speed of the actual animation. So if we go back into the editor, you make sure you're in the carousel, and in the content under settings, that transition duration, if 3000 for whatever reason on your server is too fast, make it 30,000, and they'll slow it down completely. So depending on the server, 3000 might be fine. Other servers, 30,000 might be the way to go. So now that that's done, let's go and do this section over here. So to start off this section, we're going to go add our main container. Now let me go and close this first one so we can keep everything tidy in the structure window. Okay, so for the settings of this container, we're going to make sure that it's full width at 100% width. The direction going vertical is fine, and everything else is fine. Now under style, we are going to go and select that same background texture. So it's going to be this one over here of the paper texture. We're going to say select. And then this one's going to be the same thing. So attachment's going to be fixed. The repeats can repeat. And the default size can stay the same. Now, if we go down to border on this particular one, we're going to set this to solid, and we're going to unlink the border width. Here, we just want the top. So we say that's going to be 4, and it's going to be black. Then if we go to advanced, the padding is going to be 0. Z index here is 1. So we got that going on. Now inside this, we're going to need 2 things. We're going to need a spacer and a container. So we go get the spacer, put it in, and we go get a container, and we put that in. Now for the settings of this container, it is going to be full width, and it's going to be 90%. And the gaps here are going to be 0. Now if we go to additional options, overflow is going to be hidden. Then the background, we are going to put a background color. And again, it's going to be that orange, and it's going to be that FF9125. Now, if we go over to background overlay, here we're going to be putting in an image. Now, it's going to be pretty much invisible if you inspect the image, but it's going to be this texture here. It's like a spotchy effect. So we're going to say select, and we're going to put that in. So it gives that sort of background, because we are going to be recreating this here. So this is going to be full. It's going to be center. The attachment here is going to be fixed. And if we go all the way down, the opacity at 0.5 can stay the same. But the blend mode here, we're going to say screen. Then if we go to border, it's going to be solid. It is a 4 pixels. The color is black. And the border radius here, we are going to change to rem, and it's going to be 1. Then if we go to advanced, we're going to unlink the margins, and it's going to be 40 on top and 40 on the bottom. Then the self-align is center. Z index here, again, it's just going to be 1. And we are good to go with that. Now, inside this container, we're going to need a whole bunch of stuff. So the first thing we're going to need is a spacer. We're going to grab that, put it in, and we're going to get a whole bunch of images. So we are going to take an image, put it in, we're going to duplicate it for 2, we're going to duplicate it again for 3, and one more time for 4. Then underneath this, we're going to go and get a heading, going to put that in, another spacer, grab that, put it underneath. Then this spacer here we can duplicate, so there's 2 there. And the final thing we're going to need in this container is, if you go to the plus sign, we're going to go get a loop carousel. So it's this one over here, and we're going to put it in between the 2 spacers. Alrighty, quite a lot of stuff. Let's go to the spacer. So this spacer here, it's not going to be 50, it's going to be 100. Then, moving on to the first image, this one is going to be the word Feastables. It's going in an angle. This one right over here. Image resolution can be full. Then if we head over to advanced, the position here is going to be absolute. The orientation for horizontal, we are changing this to percentage, and we are going to say that this is 16%. Then vertical, we're going to change this to percentage as well, and this one is going to be 4. Then this one needs a CSS class name. So in the reference page, we go to the top here, and it's going to be this one called Feast Twist. We copy that, go back here, and we paste it. Okay, so what's going to happen over here is when we put in the code, this is going to be doing that effect over there. So next image, number 2. This one we are going to be putting in a cloud. So it's this one right over here. We say select. Then the only thing we have to do is we go over to advanced, and this thing we're going to change the position to absolute. The horizontal here, we're going to be putting it to the right, and it's going to be 130 pixels. The vertical orientation can stay on the top, and this one is going to be 100. Now this one needs a CSS class name as well. So here it's going to be Feast Movement. So here in the CSS class names, we're going to paste in that Feast Movement. Okay, going to image 3. So the image over here is going to be the parachute chocolate. It is this one right over here. And we're going to say select. Then same thing, we go to advanced. Here, position absolute. This one is going to be on the right, also at 130. And the top, this can be 120. Then this one also is going to need a CSS class name. So it is going to be the one that says Feast Movement Reverse. Okay, because we wanted to offset the first one. So we're going to copy that, copy it over, and we paste it here. Alrighty. Now, this 4th image, we can actually go and delete this as the placeholder that it was, because now we have the others in place. Now, the 3rd image of this chocolate, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that to be the 4th. And this one, what we're going to do for this is we're going to change the image back into the cloud, and then under advanced, we're going to change the position of the absolute. So this one is going to be on the right. It is going to be 0. The vertical orientation over here can stay top, but this is going to be 320. Now, this CSS class name is perfect because we needed to trigger the reverse animation. Okay, now the heading for the text over here is going to be a flavor for every craving, except after the word for, we are putting in a breaker. So if you don't know what the breaker is, it's that one right over here where it has the less than sign, the BR, and the greater than sign on the other end. So it causes a line break. So going to style, this is going to be center aligned. Here the typography is going to be that canet again. This is changing to rem and it's going to be 8. Then the weight here is going to be 900. Transform is uppercase, style is italic, and then the letter spacing here, we're changing it to rem. We're going to give this a negative 0.1 so that the letters just squish together a little bit more. Now this is going to need a text stroke. So the stroke over here is going to be 2 pixels and it can stay at black. Then the text color here is set to white. Now if we go to advanced, the width here we're going to be putting it at custom and it's going to stay percentage, but it's going to be 85. The self-align is going to be center, and this one is going to need a CSS class name. And the one that we're looking for is this Feast Shadow Animation. So we copy that and we put it in right here. And that's all we have to do for that. So now the spacer over here that's underneath the heading, this one's going to change to 100 pixels. And then while we add it, the last spacer here we can change to 200 pixels. And now we can edit this loop carousel. So hopefully you did the products earlier, because then that'll be speeding this whole piece along, because we just have to do this over here. So here we're going to go and say create a template. We can say save changes and let's go and create that template. Okay, the first thing we're going to need here is a container to hold this product. So there's that container there. The settings over here, we don't have to do anything except for the gaps. And here in additional options, what would happen is you change this to an A link and then you can actually give it the post URL. So that's going to be for the actual product itself. So it doesn't matter where the person actually clicks over here, it's going to take them to the actual product. Then one of the final things is go to advanced. We're going to make sure the margins are 0 and the padding is 0. Okay, so inside this is going to need 2 containers. The one is going to house the image here and the one's going to do this whole button effect there. So click the plus sign, grab the 2 containers and put them in. So now we have 2 containers in there. So for the settings of this first container is we just go over to additional options and we're going to make the overflow hidden. In the style, here we're going to give a color. It's going to be this light blue color over here, the 72F2FF. Then if we go down to border, this is going to be solid. It's going to be 3 pixels. The border color is going to be black and the border radius here is going to be 10. And while we're here, the box shadow, we are just going to give a blur of 5. The default color can stay the same, it's fine. It's just a blur of 5 pixels. And if you want a really cool effect, what you can do is you go over to hover and on the shadow over here, you can make it 10 and you can just make the color more at like a 0.7. So what happens is it'll do that sort of thing. Then if we go to advanced, the padding here is going to be 0. Okay, so inside this container, we have to add a new container for the animation because this one's going to control that over there. So for the settings of this, we don't have to do too much. If we go to style, we are going to add that whole cartoony background image. So it's going to be that one there. We're going to say select. Then this is going to be full. It's going to be center. And repeat is no repeat. And it can be cover. Then if we go to advanced, the padding is 0. Then here we need a CSS class name again. So it's going to be that feast animation background. We copy that first one. And we're going to paste it here, so it's going to do that spinning effect. Okay, so inside this container, we need the image. So we go down to image, and we're going to put this in over here. Now, for the settings of this, what we're going to do is we're going to change to dynamic tags, and this is going to be the product image. Say select. Then if we go to style, we just have to make sure that it's a full width. It's going to be a center line over here. The height here can be pixels, and this one's going to be 388. And it's going to be contained for object fit and it can be center. If we go down to border radius here, we are just going to say 5 just to give it a bit more rounding. It doesn't go over there and everything else is fine there. Now for the second container. For the settings here, the layout is fine, content width is full width. The min height here, we are going to make sure that this is 80 pixels. The direction is going to be horizontal. And the justify content is center, align items center. And then additional options, we're just going to make sure the overflow is hidden. Then under style, the background color for this is white. Here we're also going to go to the border. So this is going to be solid at 3 pixels. It is going to be black and the border radius is 10. Now here again, we're going to go to the box shadow. The blur can be 5. And if you are doing that hover effect, we can go over to hover, box shadow. It's going to be 10 and maybe add like a 0.7. So it does that. Then if we go to advanced, we're going to delink the margins. The top here is going to be 15. The padding we're going to set to 0 and we are good with that container. Now inside this, we're going to need 2 containers. So container 1 and duplicate. First container, it's full width at 30%. Then justify content to center. Then in style, the background color is going to be that blue right there, which is 25AFF2. Now if we go over to border here, we are going to set this to solid. We're going to delink this, but the right we're going to say that it's 3 pixels. The color is going to be black. Now inside this container, we are going to go get the featured image. So it's this image here and we put it in. Then if we go to style, we're going to make sure this is 100% width and the pixels here can be 80 so it doesn't get too big. Then the object fit here, we're just going to say scale down and we're going to keep it center. Now moving on to the second container. This one is full width at 100%. Justify content is center. And if we go to advanced, we are making the padding -1. And inside this container, we go get the post title because this is what we're doing right there. Now, for the post title, you can keep this as an H1, but I would suggest maybe an H2 because it is a product. The style, if we go to typography here, it's going to be Canet. We're changing this to rem and we're going to give it a 1.5. Then 600 weight is fine. Transform is uppercase. Style we can leave the same. Decoration we leave the same. The line height here we're changing to rem and we're going to go 1.1. Then the text color here we are setting it to black and we are good to go with this. Now we've made our products. We can just click on the save and back. Now we're back in the main page. We are going to go down to that product thing right over here and we are going to click on this pencil here so we can actually do the settings here on the left hand side. So instead of the choose template type of post, we're going to say that this is products. Then the number of slides over here, we can say that it can be 6 if you'd really like. Then the slides display can be 3. Equal height, it can be on. Now if we go down to navigation, we're going to take out the arrows. And the pagination you can keep as you if you want. You can choose any type of thing that you'd like. But for me in this example, I'm just going to put it at none. Then if we go to style, the gaps between slides, we're going to set this at 40. And we are good to go with this section, believe it or not. Okay, so we are going to be doing this section here. So let's go and get that next main container. So the first thing I'm going to do over here is just close this in the structure window so that I don't get confused. But we're going to click on Flexbox and container. And for this, we are just going to make sure that it's full width, can stay at 100% width. And under style, we're going to give it that other blue color again. So this color over here, it's going to be the 00D0FF. And if we go to border here, it's going to be solid. We're going to delink this and the top is going to be 4 pixels and it's going to be black. Then if we go to advanced, padding is 0. Alrighty. Now inside this, we're going to need another container. So we click the plus sign, get the container, put it in. This one is going to be full width. It's going to be 90%. Then justify content is center. The align items are center. Gaps here are 0. The additional options, overflow is hidden. Now this is going to be that animation thing that we're going to be doing in the background. So under style, we are actually going to give a different color here as the background. So this is going to be a lighter blue. So it's going to be this color here, this 83EBFE. And then we're also going to give an image and it's going to be that cartoony background as well. So the position here is center. The repeat is no repeat and display size can stay default actually. Now if we go over to border here, this is going to be a solid. It's going to be a 4 pixels at black And the border radius here, we're going to change to rem, and it's going to be 1. Then if we go to advanced, we're going to delink the margins. The top is going to be 40 pixels, and so is the bottom. The self-align is going to be center, and we have to give that animation CSS class name. So it says Feast animation background, copy that and paste it in. Something just to be safe here, the Z index, we are just going to set this to 1 to make sure that the animation stays on top. Now inside here, we're going to have another container that's going to house all the elements. So it's going to be all this stuff over here. It's in a different container because we need it to float. So get the plus sign, get the third container in here so the structure looks like this. Now, the settings of this is we are going to keep this at full width, justify content center and center align. Gaps are 0. Then in advanced, padding is 0 and the Z index is 1 and the CSS class name is going to be a feast movement. Copy that and paste it in. Now inside this thing we need a whole bunch of stuff. Inside we're actually going to be putting all this, and we also have to have that floating cloud. So I'm just going to go from the first widget and we'll just build this whole thing out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab an image. So we go and put it in. Now this is going to be that cloud. So say select. Now the only thing we're going to do over here is we're going to go to advanced. The position here we're going to say absolute. The orientation horizontally is going to be 300. The vertical it's going to be 120. And this needs a CSS class name. So it is going to be beast movement reverse. Copy that and paste that in. Now the next thing we need is a spacer. So we click plus sign, get the spacer and put it in. Just make sure it's inside the container and underneath that image. So it's image spacer. The spacer here, we are just setting it to 100 pixels and we move right along to another image. So plus sign, get an image underneath the spacer. And this one is going to be the where to buy, and we say select. Nothing else has to be done. Then we are going to duplicate the spacer and we're going to be putting it underneath. So got spacer, image, spacer. This one, it's just going to be 50 pixels. Now underneath this spacer, we need another container. This one, it's going to be full width. The min height here, we are going to set it to 90. Direction horizontal, center justify, and the gaps here we're delinking, and the top is going to be 40. Then if we go to advanced, padding 0. Z index over here, we have to set this to 4. Now inside this we need 3 images. So the images we're going to be getting is these ones over here. So we're going to click the plus sign, get an image and put it in. For the settings of this, we change the image and this one's going to be Walmart. That one right there, and say insert. Then if we go to style, what we're going to do is keep this at pixels and put it at a maybe 253. The height here is going to be 70. Then object fit is going to be contain and it's going to be center. Then if we go to advanced, self-align here is going to be center. Now we are going to go to background. The background is going to be white. If we go to border, the border type is going to be solid and this is going to be 3 pixels. It's going to be black, and then the border radius here can be 6 pixels. Now we have all this. All we have to do is duplicate this 3 times so that there's going to be 3 over here. So this first one we just say duplicate. There we just have to change the images. So the second one is going to be 711. So it's going to be this one here. Say select. Duplicate it again. Third one is going to be target. Say select, put it in. Okay. Now we close this container that we got these things in. And we're going to duplicate the spacer above it. And we're going to move that underneath the container. Now make sure it's underneath the container and not in it. So this spacer here, we have to change it to 30 pixels. That's it. Then this container with these 3 different companies, we are going to duplicate that. And then we just make sure the spacer is in between the 2 containers. Now, these ones, we just have to change the images. So this Walmart now becomes that Kroger. Second one is Sam's Club. So select, And third one is that Albertsons. Say select. Now we are almost done with this section. So now we can close this container over here. Now this first spacer above the first container, we're going to duplicate that. And we are just going to be putting it underneath. And then after we put in that spacer, what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up to this taste the difference, and we are going to copy this. There are a lot of settings that we're going to change, and there's going to be a lot of settings we're going to keep with it. So we're going to paste it in here. Now for the settings of this button, the text over here has to be find a store. Now if we go to style, we're going to make sure the position is going to be center. Typography and everything can stay the same there. Then the color here, from this orange, we're going to change this to a green, and it's going to be the CEFC17. Then the border width here, we just crank it up just one more, and the border radius is fine. The padding here, we're going to change this 40 for the right to 60, and the same thing for the left. Then under advanced, self-align can be center, and the position here we can just go back to default. So we have that going on. Something we are going to change here is if we go down to custom CSS, we are just going to remove the code, because this one we don't want it to interfere with other stuff. Now the code is still going to be working there for a while, but once you publish it and you go into the front end, then it's not going to be visible anymore. Now the very last thing that we need underneath this is a spacer. So we'll just duplicate this one, put it underneath, and the spacing here is 100. And guess what? We are done with this. So this whole section, we are done. Now we're going on to the second last one. Now let's start this off with our main container. So Flexbox container, and what I'm going to do here is just close this top one so I don't get confused, and I'll make sure that I'm on the settings of that one. Now this one is going to be Flexbox full width. It's vertical, it's all good. Then for the background over here, we're going to change it up. So this one's going to be a gradient, and I'll show you the colors here now. So say color, it's going to be this blue, this 4DDAFF. Now second color, it's going to be the 2584F2, and the position for this is going to be 80%. Then the type is linear, the angle is fine there as well. And if we go down to border, we're going to say solid, and we're going to delink this, and the top here is going to be 4 and set to black. Then advanced, padding 0. Okay, so let's go do this whole thing. Okay, so the first thing we need is just going to grab a spacer, shove it in there, and it's going to be 40 pixels. Second thing we need, plus sign, image, because we need a whole bunch of floating elements. Just make sure that's underneath the spacer. Then this image is the cloud. So select, then we go to advanced. Everything in layout can stay the same. Position, we are going to say absolute. The offset is 100, and offset from the top is 50. Now this one needs CSS class name. So this one of feast movement reverse. Copy that, paste it. This image here, all we have to do is duplicate it, because we're going to put in a second cloud. Now this one, advanced, we're going to go to the position here of absolute, and we're going to change things out a bit. So this offset is going to be 50, and the bottom one is going to be 100. Then the reverse movement can stay the same. So we'll have these two clouds doing this sort of thing. Now we're going to go get a third one. So this second image, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this. And this is going to change to a different chocolate bar. It's going to be this longer one here. So we say select, and the advanced, if we go down, it's going to be 50 and 100, but this is going to change to feast movement. That reverse doesn't have to be there at all. So it's just going to be this over here. So it's going to go in a different direction than the actual cloud. Now inside this little container that we have all these clouds and everything going all randomly, we are going to go and add a container. So we get a container and we put it in. Now this container, we must make sure that's underneath those images and spaces. For the settings of this, it's going to be full width. The width we don't have to change. The direction is horizontal, and we're going to align everything to the center. Then if we go to advanced, delink the padding, right is 40 and left is 40. Now inside this, we're going to need two things. We're going to need an image and a container. So let's go and get that first container. We're going to put it in. And we're going to go get an image and just make sure that it's not inside this new container. So if we put it in here, just make sure that it's outside of the container and that it's in the beginning. Okay, so here's an image, here's the container. So this container settings, we're going to set this to 30% width. Then if we go to advanced, we're going to delink the margins here, and the bottom here, what we're going to do is going to say -100. Now inside this container, we're going to add an image. So we click the plus sign, grab an image, put it in. And this image is going to be the stack of chocolates. And we're going to say select. Then under advanced, we're going to delink the margins, and the top is going to be 10. And this one needs a CSS class name. So it's going to be the feast movement. We're going to copy that and we paste it in there. I bet you can't wait for all the code to be put in and all the stuff just gets animated. So now we're done with this. Now we're going to the second image. So this image has a few settings to it. So the image itself, we can select this one or this one within. This is the brand new one. Both of them work for the same place. So we say select. The image resolution is full. Under style, we make sure it's 100%. The pixels for height is 650. Then it's going to be cover for object fit and center. Then under border, we're going to say that this is solid. The border width is going to be 4, black color, and our border radius here is 20. Here we can also add a shadow. So this one, we can go to box shadow and we can say it's 15 blur. Now if you want, you can darken the shadow a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact, so like a 0.7 is cool. Then if we go over to advanced, here the width is going to be custom, and it's going to be a VW at a 75. Then what we're going to do is go over to stars and just say grow. Now we're done with that, and the last thing we have to add to this whole shebang is another spacer. So this main container, we're closing it. All you see is the space, the 3 images on the container. We're going to go and get a spacer, and we're going to go and put it in somewhere. So just make sure that the spacer that we added, it's at the bottom. And all this one has to do is we're going to change the pixels to 20. Just a bit of spacing over there so we have something nice over here. Now the only thing we have to do is the last container, which is the footer here. Okay, so final stretch. Here we're going to add our main container. So with that one right there, for the settings of this, it's going to be full width at 100. Direction can be down and everything else can stay the same there. Then the background style, the color here, it's going to be that 11CCFF. It's one that we've used before. Then if we go to border, we need it at a solid. We're going to uncheck this. The top's going to be 4 and it's going to be a black color. Then in advanced, padding is 0. The Z index here, it's going to be 0. Now, let's go and add everything. So now we need a container for the animation. So let's go get that, put it in. So this can be full width. Under style, the background here, it's going to be the cartoony image we've used before. Say select. It is full and everything else can stay the same. Then in advanced, we need the animation CSS name again. So it's a feast animation background. Copy that, paste it into the CSS classes. The Z index is going to be 2. Oh, those animations are coming, baby. Those animations are coming. Now, inside this, we need a container. So we grab a container and we put it in. This is full width at 90%. The direction is horizontal and the gaps are 0. The background style, we need to put that other blue again. So we need this lighter blue. It's the same one that we've used in a container before. It is that 58DCFF. Then heading over to border, this is solid, a 4 pixels at black. Radius here, we are going to change it to rem and it's a 1. Heading over to advanced, unlink the margins for margin, 40 on top, 40 on the bottom. Give it some nice spacing. Padding, it's going to be 40 all around, and self-align center. Now in this we need 2 containers. So we're going to be doing this side over here, and that's going to be the second container. So plus sign, container, inside, and we duplicate it. There we go. So the left side, this can be full width. We can just crank it to 100. Justify is going to be center for everything. And we're good to go there. Second container, full width, 100. Center justify, but don't put anything else there. The gaps here are 0. Then if we go to advanced padding, we change to percentage, delink it. Right is 13, left is 13%. Now, the left-hand container, we are going to start adding things to here. So we need 2 containers over here. Okay, so plus sign, container inside, duplicate. We got those 2 containers. The one's going to be housing the logo, the other one's going to have this. So for the settings of the first one, it's full width. We can leave everything else the same there. The direction is horizontal. The justify content is center. Then the settings of the second one, full width, don't have to put anything in there. Vertical is fine. And everything else is fine. Okay, now inside this container, we are going to need 2 containers. So we go get container, put it in, and duplicate. For the settings of these ones, we just have to put align items end gaps 0. Done. Now, inside this first one that we're working with, I know it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth container deep. We need a heading and a menu. So go get a heading and we can go get a menu. This WordPress one is just fine over there. Now just make sure that it is in that order: container, heading, menu. This menu over here, I just made a dummy one, so it's just going to be the one that says shop all chocolate bundles, limited time, and find a store. So these are just made it as custom little things here. There will be a second menu that says sourcing, fact, contact us, my account, and careers. So again, it's just dummy menus I put in over here just to get the styling. So if you had to make pages to this, then you could replace the dummy with the page name. But you don't need these to get the styling right. You can actually just do the styling now and you can add it in whenever. So settings of the heading. This one, the text is Beast. This can be maybe an H6. And the style alignment is to the left. The typography is that Canet. It is going to be rem at a 1.5. It is a 900 weight. Transform is uppercase. And the line heights here, we're changing to rem and we're going to say 2 to really give it a little bit of spacing there. Now the color of this is a funny brown. So it is this 492425. It's weird browny color. Now, if we go to advanced of this heading, we're going to delink the margin, and the right, we're going to say 73. And everything else is good. Moving to the menu, for the layout, it's going to be horizontal. Alignment is at the start. If we go to style, it's going to be that weird color again of brown. Typography is at Canet again. We're changing this to rem for size, and it's going to be a 1.25. This is a 700 bold and uppercase. The style here, we're going to put it to italic, and the line height, we're going to change to rem, and we're going to say this is a 0.75. Okay, done. Now, this actual container itself, we've got all the settings here. So we're just going to duplicate it. And then this last container that we have in this third one, we can just delete. And we only have to change a couple of things here. So the text for the second one is info, and the menu would be a different menus. So like an info one, like the dummy one that I was talking about. So for this heading here, we just have to go to advanced and we can take out that right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make the right 0, but the left, we're just going to give it a little bit of space. So it's going to be 20. And then for this actual container, we are just going to say align items, and we're going to take this out. So everything realigns over there. Now we're done with that. That was pretty much one of the hardest ones. So here we're just going to do something real quick. Here we just need an image and a heading. So we go up and get the image, put it in, and we just need a heading. We grab that and we put it in. This image real quick is the MrBeast logo. So we are going to go with either one of these, doesn't really matter. put it in. Here, the settings can be for full resolution. And then the style, we just make sure it's 100% on the width. Done. Heading. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to click on this dynamic tags. And we're going to go look for the current date and time. So for the settings of this, we are going to say that it's a custom and it's a capital Y. So it just does the year. Now, under advanced, all we have to do is say after, and we're going to give a space and say Feastables. So it's just a little space, because if you don't put the space, it goes right on the actual date time. So we want the space. Now, under the style, we go to center align. Typography, it's Canet again, but this we are changing to rem, and it's going to be a 0.875. Then weight is 500, and we are good to go there, except for the color. The color is just black. Done. Now it's this side. Very quick. So the first thing we're going to do is go get the social icons. So we say social, look for social icons, slap that bad boy in. Now the first one is going to be TikTok. So I'm just going to add one and change the icon to TikTok. Now you're not going to find it if you actually just search for the recommended. So if you go to all icons, you'll find it there and you say insert. Now this one we're going to put onto the top. The second one is going to be Instagram. So what I'll do is I'll change this Facebook to Instagram. So I'm going to say there's the Instagram one, insert. Third one, it is Discord. So we say Discord, which is this one right here, and we say insert. Then fourth one is Twitter, which is actually X. So we just try X. It's going to be X Twitter right there, and say insert. Now for the shape, we want circle. This can be center aligned, it's fine. Everything else is there is fine. So we go to style. This is going to be custom. The primary color is going to be white. Secondary color is black. The spacing here, 5 is fine. Border here, we are going to say it's solid. And this is going to be a 3. Then color is fine, but what you can do is just put it to black if you want to really mail it in. And we are done. So next thing we need is a spacer. A nice small space just underneath the icons. Now this spacer is just going to be 20 pixels. And moving right along, we need a heading. So we're just going to copy this one over here. Say copy. And we're just going to paste it. And for the texture, it's text feast 269420. But what I did was I did the U. So it just underlines feast. So that's that bracket, U, bracket, capital feast. And then I did the bracket with the slash, which means close the actual underline. U and bracket. So it's that same triangular bracket, which is the greater than and less than sign. I don't know what it's called in other countries, if it is different. Then HTML tag, yeah, we can change to P. Under style, all we have to do is change the weight to 500 and then make sure the alignment here is on the center. Now, underneath this, we need a text editor. So slap in that bad boy. And there is this whole signing up consideration thing. What you can do is just copy that from the real MrBeast's Feastables site if you need to. That's pretty much what I did. For the color here, it's going to be the same as these headings. So I'm just going to go to this heading, copy this brown, go back to the text editor and change the text color to that brown. Then the typography is at Canet again, and it's going to be 10 pixels. 400 weight is fine, and the line height here can be 8 pixels. Then what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate this heading above here and put it underneath the text widget. Now this one, it says get Feastables sent to you. Then all we have to do is go to style and change the sizing of this typography. So this one is going to be a 1.25, weight is 600, and everything else is good. Moving right along, we are going to put in a form, because there on the original there is a little form here, very quick to do. So here we search for form, take it, put it in. Now this one only needs the one, and it's the email address. So we click get rid of everything else, we say email, then the label is email address, and then the placeholder is enter email. Then required is yes, and the column width here we're changing to 60%. The labels here will say hide. Then if we go to buttons, small is fine, column width is 40%, so they're next to each other. And we can head over to style. So the column gaps are going to be 0. Row gaps can stay the same. Label doesn't matter because there is none. Text color here, we can slap it on a black. HTML, we can slap this color on a black. Then if we go back up to the text, the typography here is going to be that Kenneth. It is going to be at 20 pixels, a bold 700, and we are done there. Now if we head over to field, the text color here is going to be black. Typography, Kenneth, 20, weight is 700, and everything else is fine. We are almost there. Background color is white. Border color is black. Border width is 3 pixels. Border radius here we're going to unlink. And the top is 10 and the left is 10. So top 10, left 10. So we're doing that effect there. Moving over to the button. The typography here, it's going to be the Kenneth again. 24 pixels. The weight is 700. And we move right along. So border type, solid. Border width, 3. Now, background color for this, it's going to be this blue over here, the 0084AD. The color is white, border color here is black. The background color here for previous, it's going to be that same blue, and that is fine there. Now, border radius, unlink, right here is 10 and bottom is 10. So that's the type of look we are going for. Now, there's something that we need to do to this button. So if we go to advanced and we go down to custom CSS, you have to paste some CSS in here. So now this code over here, you're going to see it's a form custom CSS. You just have to say copy there, and that's what I pasted. So it's pretty much in line with that. Now you do see this double line here. So if you go to form and you go to buttons, here what we can do is we put a 3 all around. We're going to unlink this, and this left we can set to 0. So it does conform with the actual main thing over here, which just had one line. And we are done with the form. Final stretches here is just as powered by and WordPress. I mean, why not? So on this right hand side, we are just going to go get a container, put it underneath the form. And the only things you have to do over here is horizontal and center. Now inside this, all we need is a heading and an image. So heading, we can just copy one of these. Say copy, paste, because it's got the right color, and then we go to plus sign and we say image and we put it in. So this heading, the text is just going to be powered by, P is fine, and if we go into style, center is fine. The typography is still that Kenneth, but this is just going to be 1, and the 600 bold is fine. Everything else is good. Then if we go to advanced, the width here is custom at a 28%. Now, moving along onto the final image. This image is going to be the WordPress logo. Let's take that. Insert. Style. If we go to style, it's going to be center, and the height here is going to be 107. It is going to be an object fit of contain, and it's center. Then under advanced, we go to width. It's custom, and this is going to be a 30%. We are done with the construction. Next up, the magic. All the code. Very easy. It's 3 HTML widgets, and we're just going to copy paste. Okay, so here's the magic. So now we're going to go get a last container just to house all the HTML widgets. Now this one doesn't need to have any setting whatsoever. It's just for the HTML widgets. So what we're going to do is just going to put the gaps to this to 0. Okay, so it doesn't show up on the page when you publish. Then in padding, the same thing. We're just going to set the padding to 0. Now inside this, we're going to go and get that HTML widget. So click the plus sign. We're going to look for HTML, grab it, done. Now this one, let's just rename it so we know what this is for. So if we click the HTML, we're going to say that this is the spin animation. Now this one we can duplicate, and we rename the second one to floating. Duplicate again, and this one is going to be called the shadow animation. And that is all we have to build. Now, if we click on spin animation, we go to a reference site, and here this code says the following goes in spin animation. So we copy that and we paste it in. Click on the floating HTML widget. Go over back to the resource page, scroll down. Here under floating animation, copy that, paste it in. Third widget, which is for the shadow, in the reference page, scroll down, this shadow one, copy and paste. We're done. So if we scroll up, you can see all the animations kicking in that we've been building up this entire tutorial. As you can see, there's that shadow one, there's one of those spinning ones, there's this one floating up and down. Everything has kicked in, and we say publish. And if we preview it in the front end, you can see this thing in all its glory, spinning, floating, all the work that we have been doing to make the better version in WordPress available of MrBeast's Feastable website. Very, very cool. It is a long one, but at least we have all the animations and everything just kick in because we have done all the CSS class names and this thing is running. Hope you like this one. This one took me one hell of a long time to actually film. It's about like almost 4 hours to film, so I really have to try and condense this to as much as possible because most people are just not gonna follow along for 4 hours. And I'll see you in the next one.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, smash that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing as well. That stuff makes a big difference to a small channel like mine. If you have any suggestions or anything, then just put a comment down below. Let me see what I can do. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.